Welcome back, America. Joining us now to continue our discussion is Alan Dershowitz, Harvard professor emeritus and the author of one of my favorite books, a must-read, The Price of Principle. Alan, glad to have you back in the United States. Welcome.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Happy Hanukkah to everybody and almost Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. Good to have you on. Not a merry day for Donald Trump. A pretty dramatic moment today. The January 6th committee referring him to the Justice Department for incitement and other things. I want to get your thoughts on the rationale that Congress is using to request this investigation.
In my view, it's clearly unconstitutional under three provisions of the Constitution. First, Article 1 limits the power of Congress to legislative actions. This is not a legislative action. Naming a specific individual, referring him to the Justice Department is not legislative. It tramples on the authority of the executive branch. Second, the Constitution specifically prohibits bills of attainder. Those were the old parliamentary rules where they named specified individuals and prosecuted them. And the spirit of that prohibition applies to voting to name a specific individual and refer him to Congress. And then finally, the 14th Amendment provides one specific time when Congress may, in fact, act against an individual, and that is if the person was engaged in insurrection or rebellion, like in the Civil War, and they didn't act under that provision. So in my view, it violates both the letter and the spirit of the Constitution to make these kinds of referrals, and the Justice Department ought to ignore them.
Wow.
Alan, I love the name of your book, The Price of Principle, because you are principled. I know from comments you've made on this show that you did not support Donald Trump in any presidential elections, but you still stand up for these constitutional issues.
The Constitution is more important. Partisanship.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, it is. It's much more important than any party or even any specific candidate. What do you expect to transpire after these official referrals?
Oh, nothing. I think the Justice Department will be polite and accept them and then go on with its own investigation. Remember, they now have a special counsel. They have the ability to investigate. They have a much higher standard of prosecution than Congress does. And so they will politely ignore what Congress has said. And Congress knows that. You know, Jamie Raskin, my former student, used to teach constitutional law. He understands everything I've just said, but he puts partisanship before principle and before the Constitution. And, you know, he's prepared to fly in the face of the Constitution in order to get Trump, as so many others today are willing to do. And the victims are the American public who are protected by the Constitution, you know, and we need to be protected by the Constitution because we're seeing the law weaponized. And once the Republicans get power, they'll probably do some of the same things. So the American public has to be protected against the weaponization of our legal system for partisan purposes.